Hey guys, tonight we travel far beyond memory, back to a world before names, before stories, before you even knew what it meant to feel. It's about 100,000 years ago in the ancient plains of East Africa, where the wind smells of wet soil and the cries of night animals echo like questions without answers. You crouch beside the faint orange glow of a dying fire, your skin dusted with ash, the stars too many to count. The air tastes of smoke and something else, anticipation. Around you, your small band of humans huddles close, because warmth means life. You're not thinking about love yet, you're thinking about not freezing. But here's the twist. You're also thinking about them, the one who sat beside you earlier, whose eyes met yours across the firelight. You probably won't survive the winter if you don't stay close, and you probably don't realize yet that this closeness is the very first spark of what we'll one day call love. So tonight, as we trace the first human heartbeat that dared to care, hit that subscribe, drop your location and your time down below. Let's see where in the world you're listening from, while we drift together into the oldest story of all, when hearts learn to feel. Sweet dreams, traveler. But don't close your eyes just yet. You breathe through your mouth, and the air carries the warmth of others. The group's rhythm, soft breathing, shifting feet, a shared heartbeat in the dark, keeps the predators away. Safety is sound, but inside that pattern, something strange happens. You find yourself noticing one sound more than the rest, the rustle of one person's hair, the faint crackle when they shift closer. It's not hunger, it's not fear, it's something else. Maybe it's comfort, maybe it's the first echo of attachment, the human brain quietly rewriting the survival code. Stay close, not just to live, stay close because you want to. Early humans didn't have words like love, but they had gestures. They shared food, tended wounds, and pressed their foreheads together to calm each other after storms. Those moments built invisible bridges in the mind. Neuroscientists today would say oxytocin started its quiet revolution, that same hormone that floods modern lovers after a hug or kiss. But back then, it was chemistry without poetry, just instinct shaping behavior that would soon become something much bigger. You follow the tribe at dawn, feet sliding through wet grass. You're cold, hungry, and watching for danger, but your gaze keeps flicking toward the same person. They carry a bundle of roots over their shoulder, stumble, and you reach out, maybe too quickly to steady them. A laugh escapes. The first shared joke between two humans in history. It's small, it's wordless, but it's powerful. For a brief moment, the heavy world around you, the lions, the storms, the endless walking, disappears. It's just you two. That spark will outlive every kingdom and empire that hasn't even been imagined yet. Later that night, rain drizzles over the camp. Everyone curls beneath hides. You wake to find their hand brushing yours in the dark. Reflex tells you to pull back. Instinct tells you to stay. You stay. The warmth between palms becomes a silent pact. Tomorrow, you'll share food again. The next day, maybe you'll hunt together. One day, you'll carry a child together. The universe doesn't name it, but the pattern begins. Humans learn something astonishing. Emotion isn't weakness, it's evolution's secret weapon. Love keeps the fire burning, even when everything else fades. In the morning, you watch them walk toward the river. The sunlight glints on their hair. You don't understand attraction, but your chest tightens in a way that has nothing to do with fear. Somewhere in your skull, neurons spark, and you smile, awkward, confused, and deeply human. The first love isn't a kiss or a promise. It's this. The simple, irrational urge to protect another, even when it costs you something. That's how love began. Not in poetry or perfume, but in hunger and danger, in mud and firelight. You can almost hear the ancestors whisper, this is how it starts. A look, a shared meal, a reach across the cold. And though thousands of years will pass before anyone writes a love song, every lyric will trace back to this moment, to a night when you didn't know why your heart beat faster, only that it did. Morning spills across the savannah like honey, warm and slow, coating everything in gold. You blink against the light, stretch the stiffness from your arms, and feel the weight of the night still clinging to you. Around you, people stir, a yawn here, a cough there, the daily orchestra of survival. But you're listening for one sound only, the shuffle of bare feet you now recognize instantly. When it comes, you don't turn right away. You just let the awareness roll through you, quiet and soft, like a secret you're scared to admit even to yourself. Before humans had words, they had eyes. And those eyes spoke entire languages, the twitch of a brow, the curve of a mouth, the steady glance that lingers a fraction too long. You catch theirs now across the clearing. It's nothing, and it's everything. You both look away, pretending to be busy, pretending you don't know the gravity of a single shared glance. But your heart knows, your body knows. Somewhere deep inside, a whisper begins. This is what connection feels like. Later, as your tribe gathers to move, you walk side by side. No one notices the rhythm between your steps, but you do. It matches like it's been practiced 1,000 times. You point toward the trees ahead, the fruit grove you've passed before, and they nod, already understanding what you mean without sound. That's how love speaks in this world. Through motion, through instinct, through a kind of silent harmony no language could match. The path is long, and the day grows cruel. The heat rises in waves, pressing against your skin until sweat stings your eyes. Flies buzz. The air tastes of salt and dust. But when they hand you a piece of dried meat, their fingers brush yours, and suddenly the day feels easier. You laugh at yourself inside. How ridiculous, you think. A piece of food, a touch, and your body behaves like it's been given treasure. Back at the camp that evening, everyone collapses in the shade, exhausted. But you can't stop watching the play of firelight on their face. The colors change, gold to red, red to shadow. You don't know why it feels important, but it does. You're witnessing something sacred and small, recognition, the sense that another human being carries a world inside them, just like you do, and somehow, that makes the universe less lonely. You share a water skin, take turns drinking, your lips touch the same rim, and you think nothing could be closer than that. The first loves of history were not about poetry or passion. They were about sharing what kept you alive. Water, food, shelter, warmth. To give those was to give a piece of yourself. Scientists now say this early emotional wiring, empathy, bonding, shared trust, changed everything for our species. Without it, humans might have gone extinct. The difference between us and the beasts wasn't just tools or fire, it was the ability to look at another being and feel something, to care if they stayed alive, to grieve when they didn't. That strange ache in your chest, the one you feel right now watching them smile, that's not weakness, that's humanity's superpower. As darkness falls, the camp grows quiet again. Crickets hum their steady rhythm, the night smells of smoke and damp earth. They lie down a little closer this time, not touching, just near enough to feel the warmth of your breath mixing with theirs. The stars above stretch wider than your imagination, and you realize for the first time that love might just be nature's way of reminding you that you belong here, not alone, but together. You glance over once more, before sleep claims you. Their eyes are closed now, lashes brushing their cheek, peaceful. You wonder what they dream about. Maybe about the hunt, maybe about you. Either way, you smile, a small private thing that will echo across millennia, because someday in languages not yet invented, humans will still do this. Reach for each other in the dark, and call it love. Dawn again. The air feels colder this time, sharp enough to bite your nose as you wake. The camp stirs in slow ripples, one person stretching, another poking the embers to coax life from last night's fire. Smoke curls upward in thin, ghostly threads. You rub your eyes and glance toward the river, where a few figures are already moving, collecting water, checking traps, and there they are, the one who's been living rent-free in your head since the last sunset. They wave you over with a small motion, just 2 fingers and a grin. You try to act casual. You fail spectacularly. This morning's task is simple. Follow the game trails and look for footprints. Food has been scarce, and everyone feels the pressure. But even as you crouch to examine the muddy impressions, you can't help noticing the shape of their hands, the way they balance, the faint scar on their wrist that you somehow want to trace. You wonder if this distraction is dangerous, falling in love in a world where a single misstep means death. It is, of course, but it's also the reason your kind will survive, because when one of you falls, the other will care enough to help them back up. You move through tall grass, your senses tuned to every rustle and shadow. Birds rise suddenly from a tree and scatter across the pale sky. You freeze, motionless, heart hammering. They reach out, fingers grazing your arm in warning. That one small touch sends lightning through your veins. Protection feels intimate now. You both move like a single creature, reading the world together. The trail bends toward a cluster of stones, and the footprints deepen, fresh. The hunt begins. Hours pass. You track, chase, and finally corner a gazelle by the river bend. The group fans out. The plan is silent but understood. They hurl the spear first, clean and quick. You follow, your own strike finishing what theirs began. The animal falls, and a cheer rises, not loud but relieved. The tribe gathers to butcher, hands working fast, eyes scanning for predators. Amid the chaos, you catch their look again. Pride, gratitude, a spark that no one else notices. By the time the meat is divided and packed, your arms ache and your feet are raw. Still, you feel light. Love, it seems, makes hunger easier to bear. When you return, the elders mutter blessings. The children dart forward to touch the kill. The smell of roasting fills the air, thick and comforting. You sit side by side near the fire, grease on your fingers, laughter bubbling in your throat. Someone tells a story, half truth, half magic, and the night feels safe for once. You lean closer just to hear them breathe. Later, when most of the tribe sleeps, they hand you a small, carved bead. Smooth, bone-white, no bigger than a fingernail. You stare at it, puzzled. They shrug, shy, but their eyes say everything. It's a token, maybe the first love gift in human history. You tie it into a cord and wear it around your neck. You don't know the word promise, but you've just made one. Over time, your paths stop dividing. You gather together, hunt together, share jokes that no one else understands. When danger looms, your first thought isn't of yourself anymore. It's of them. You start imagining a future, not abstractly, but concretely. A place to sleep, a child's laughter, someone to guard the fire while the other dreams. The concept of pair bond will one day fill scientific journals, but right now it's just instinct made visible. You've chosen each other. One night, a storm rolls in from the east. Lightning splits the sky, thunder shakes the bones of the earth. Everyone scrambles for shelter, clutching hides and baskets. You grab their hand and run for the cave's mouth, rain slashing your face. Inside, darkness swallows you both. You're soaked, trembling, but alive. You turn toward them and laugh. It bursts out uncontrolled, ridiculous, joyful. They laugh too. In that echoing cave, laughter becomes your language. When you finally lie down, shoulder to shoulder, the storm outside feels far away. Love in this world isn't gentle. It's survival, dressed as tenderness. Every touch is a gamble, every attachment a risk. But it also builds something bigger: memory. Tomorrow, you'll tell the others about the lightning, the noise, the way you both outran the storm. They'll nod, amused, maybe a little jealous, and deep down you'll know, the first pair bond in history wasn't forged in ceremony or song. It was made here, in mud, firelight, and laughter shared against the dark. The next morning begins with the sharp crack of voices echoing through the valley, the elders calling everyone to gather. Smoke curls above the new fire as people circle around it, bare feet pressing dew-soaked grass into the soil. Today is different. There's excitement in the air, a rare break from the endless rhythm of survival. Someone in the tribe has decided to mark their partnership with a ritual, a gesture that says, "We belong to each other." You glance at your partner, they raise an eyebrow, half curious, half amused. You both know what's happening, even though no one has a word for it yet. The first union ceremony in human history is about to unfold. The pair stand in front of the group, nervous but proud. Around their necks hang strings of shells and carved bones, tokens traded and found. An elder steps forward holding a burning branch, the smoke thick and fragrant with crushed herbs. He waves it slowly between them, chanting low, rhythmic sounds that might not mean much individually, but together feel heavy with purpose. The crowd joins in, humming, swaying, stamping the ground. It's hypnotic. You realize this isn't just about the two lovers. It's about everyone acknowledging that love is now part of what it means to be human. You steal a glance at your partner again. They smile faintly, and you feel the same warmth from the first fire you shared. The same spark that's carried you both through storms and hunts. For the first time, you wonder what your own ritual might look like. A shell traded for a stone, a bead for a promise. You don't need an elder to bless it. It's already real. The chanting grows louder. The couple exchange gifts. Small, simple objects. A piece of animal tooth. A braid of grass. They touch foreheads. Eyes closed. Around them, the tribe cheers softly, a ripple of joy through the morning air. You think how remarkable it is. A species once too busy running from predators has found time to celebrate something invisible. Love has become ceremony. As the day passes, the fire becomes a gathering point. Food is shared, laughter spills out, children dance in the dust. You sit with your partner watching it all, feeling both ancient and newborn. Somewhere deep inside you understand that this moment will echo through every culture that follows. Weddings, vows, rings, dances, all of them distant descendants of this smoky, clumsy ritual. You lean closer and whisper a thought that only half makes sense. Maybe this is forever. They laugh quietly, brushing a stray ash from your cheek. Forever, of course, doesn't exist yet as an idea, but the feeling does. Later, when the crowd drifts to sleep, the fire still burns low. You and your partner stay awake, watching the embers pulse like tiny hearts. They pick up a stick and draw something in the dirt, 2 lines crossing, then looping back toward each other. It's nothing, really, but you stare at it, mesmerized. Maybe it's the first symbol of connection. Maybe it's the first heart, though no one will call it that for another 100,000 years. You reach out and draw beside it, your lines meeting theirs, a shared mark in the soil, fleeting, soon to vanish in the wind. But in your minds it's carved forever. The wind picks up, carrying the smell of rain. You both huddle closer. They rest their head against your shoulder and murmur a low sound that vibrates softly in your chest. Not quite words, more like a melody. You answer with one of your own, half hum, half sigh. The 2 sounds weave together, something primal and beautiful, something that feels like belonging. By dawn, the drawing is gone, washed away by dew. But the memory lingers, like a spark that refuses to die. Around the camp, others begin mimicking what they saw. Gifts exchanged, lines drawn, songs shared. The idea of ritual spreads faster than language itself. Humans are beginning to realize that love isn't just survival, it's identity, a desolation. We are here, we care, we remember. You don't know it, but the world has changed forever. Somewhere in the endless wilderness, a pair of hearts have written the first chapter of a story that will outlive mountains. The days blur together after the storm. Damp mornings, long hunts, tired evenings around smoky fires. You and your small group move constantly, chasing herds across open plains, always searching for water. It's a harsh rhythm, but it's also familiar. What isn't familiar is how much easier it feels now that you're not alone inside your head. You catch yourself humming sometimes, copying the sound of birds, and they grin at you like you've lost your mind. Maybe you have. Love tends to do that. Even back here, before music or words, affection leaks out as rhythm and sound. Humans are starting to sing, though they don't know it yet. The 2 of you work side by side, breaking branches for firewood, scraping hides, checking traps. There's no ceremony to it, just shared effort that slowly becomes routine. And in that routine, something miraculous happens. Comfort. You can sense their mood without a glance. They can tell when you're tired, before you admit it. It's like your thoughts begin to overlap. The first sparks of empathy firing quietly in the dark corners of the human brain. You're not just surviving together anymore. You're understanding each other. One afternoon, you follow them to the river. The sky is heavy with clouds again, the light soft and silver. They kneel by the edge, washing a hide, hands steady in the current. You watch the water twist around their fingers, and think about how fragile everything is. A few thousand years from now, someone will paint lovers like this on cave walls. 2 figures side by side beneath the sun. But right now, no one's watching except you, and that makes it sacred. You scoop up a handful of water and splash it over their arm. They yelp, startled, and toss a handful back. The 2 of you end up drenched and laughing, soaked through but unable to stop. That laughter echoes off the cliffs, carried on the wind. It's joy, a new thing in the human vocabulary. For a few minutes there's no hunger, no danger, no fear, just play. And that's what love really is in its purest form, the courage to be silly when the world wants you serious. Later, as you walk back to camp, you feel the ache of hunger return. But you don't mind it as much. You talk in half grunts and gestures, inventing a small, private shorthand. Maybe that's how all languages start. Someone trying to say, "You matter to me," without having the words for it yet. Every sound becomes softer, more intentional. When you point at the stars, they nod. and you both start giving names to things only you understand. A certain rock that looks like a sleeping beast, a tree shaped like a hand, a pattern in the stars that reminds you of each other. You're building a shared world, brick by invisible brick. As the group grows and children appear, those tiny worlds multiply. The others start copying your gestures, your noises. Love isn't just survival anymore, it's culture. A mother hums softly to calm her baby. Two elders sit close for warmth and don't let go when the fire dies. Affection becomes language, passed from one generation to the next. Humanity is learning that emotion can be taught. One night, while tending the fire, you notice two younger hunters watching the way you and your partner sit together. They exchange a look, curious, maybe envious, and one of them moves a little closer to the other. You smile to yourself. It's spreading, this strange, reckless tenderness. Before sleep, your partner leans against you, head on your shoulder. Their breath is steady, their hair smells like ash and river water. The world outside is full of danger, hyenas laughing, thunder rolling. But here in this tiny circle of light, you feel invincible. You understand, even without words, that love is what makes humans worth saving. It's not tools or fire or cleverness. It's this quiet decision to keep someone else warm even when you're freezing too. You close your eyes, heart steady against theirs, and think, maybe this is what all the future songs will be about. Not gods or wars, but this simple miracle. Two humans wrapped in smoke and heartbeat, daring to care in a world that never promised kindness. And just like that, another piece of the human story falls into place. You wake to a quieter world, soft with mist and birdsong. The storm has passed, the earth smells new again, and your tribe is already moving, shaking off sleep, packing hides, tying bundles of tools. You and your partner walk together, the rhythm of your steps unconsciously matched. The air is cool and heavy with the promise of rain. Somewhere ahead, the elders talk of finding better ground, a new river, more animals. But your mind drifts elsewhere, to the strange fire that seems to live inside your chest lately. It burns even when there's no flame nearby. Love, though you don't call it that yet, has changed you. It's not just warmth or comfort anymore. It's something physical, chemical, almost dangerous. When they touch your hand, your pulse jumps. When they smile, the world sharpens. You don't know the word dopamine, but it rules you nonetheless. That fleeting rush of pleasure that keeps your body chasing the feeling again and again. Humans are becoming addicts, and the drug is affection. You don't hunt alone anymore. When you separate briefly to follow different tracks, you feel an ache deep in your chest. Anxiety, loss, fear, maybe all three at once. You think of them constantly, imagine their voice, their laugh. It's ridiculous, and yet you can't stop. You've discovered longing, another invention of the human brain. Somewhere, nature is taking notes, making adjustments. The mind that once only cared about hunger and danger now craves connection as much as food or fire. Later that day, as the group rests by a small stream, your partner sits beside you, passing pieces of fruit back and forth. You tease them for dropping one into the mud. They stick their tongue out at you. It's absurd, childlike, and yet it feels sacred. Neuroscientists of the future will call this oxytocin's work, the bonding hormone flooding your bloodstream, convincing you that this person, this moment is safety itself. Love, it turns out, isn't just a feeling, it's biology wearing poetry's mask. You watch how others behave too. The young ones flirt awkwardly, sharing meat, laughing too loud, pretending not to stare. The elders smile knowingly. They've seen it before, though they don't name it either. The tribe is shifting in small, invisible ways. Bonds form and hold. Families become the first communities. Because of this thing, this invisible magnet between hearts, humans will stop wandering someday. They'll build homes, villages, civilizations. It all starts here, with that flutter in your stomach when they glance your way. That night you sit together by the fire, tracing patterns in the dirt again. The stars overhead feel closer than usual, like they're leaning in to listen. You talk in gestures, half grunts, shared laughter, your private language growing richer. You realize that the more you feel, the more you want to express. Words are still millennia away, but the seed is there. Emotion needs sound. Love is teaching humanity to speak. You lean closer, your shoulders brushing. They rest their head against you, and you feel that familiar wave of calm. the one that settles your heartbeat and softens your breathing. It's more than comfort, it's recognition. You belong to someone, and someone belongs to you. In a world full of danger, that's the closest thing to magic. Somewhere in the dark, you hear a baby cry. A mother hums softly, rocking it against her chest. That sound, that rhythm, that tenderness, it's the same song your species will never stop singing. Love, like fire, spreads through imitation. Each generation learns it by watching. A hand on a shoulder, a shared laugh, a promise made without words. Before sleep, you look at your partner and think about the strange pattern that's forming in your life. A cycle of joy, worry, and need. You want to protect them. You want them near. You want them happy. You're not sure when wanting became this powerful. Somewhere in the human mind, circuits that once screamed run, now whisper stay. Evolution has officially gone soft, and yet that softness will build the world. You close your eyes to the sound of their breathing beside you, your body still humming from the day's touch. Love is no longer just survival, it's the force rewiring the species, and whether you like it or not, you're its first willing experiment. The days after bring a different kind of tension. The air feels charged, though not with storms this time. With jealousy, your tribe has grown larger, the camp louder and more crowded. New faces have joined, travelers from another band that merged with yours for the season. Among them are sharp eyes and quicker smiles, and you notice one of them watching your partner a little too long across the fire. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, but your chest tightens anyway. Congratulations, you've just discovered the oldest emotional hangover in human history. At first you try to ignore it. You focus on chores, on hunting, on anything that requires moving fast and thinking less. But jealousy is clever. It hides in silence and whispers questions you can't answer. Do they still look for you first in the crowd? Do they laugh the same way with others? You hate how it feels, that heat behind your ribs. But there's no running from it. The same chemistry that made love intoxicating now turns it poisonous when threatened. The brain hasn't learned balance yet. It only knows how to care too much. One afternoon, while the others are busy cleaning fish by the river, you see your partner talking to one of the newcomers. They're smiling. Your stomach knots, absurdly. You drop what you're doing, muttering something about needing more firewood. By the time you return, they're gone. Out gathering herbs, someone says. You sit by the fire, jaw tight, trying not to look like a sulking adolescent, even though that's exactly what you are, evolutionarily speaking. Somewhere, nature smirks. Humans have officially invented heartache. That night the tribe feasts. The smell of roasted fish fills the air. Laughter rolls like waves, but you barely taste your food. You glance at your partner across the flames, watching the way the light flickers in their eyes. Finally they catch your gaze and tilt their head. Curious, maybe even amused. You sigh and look away, embarrassed by how transparent you are. Still, later when everyone drifts off, they approach and sit quietly beside you. For a while, neither of you speaks. The silence is heavy but not cruel. Then, softly, they place a hand on your arm and leave it there. No explanations, no apologies, just warmth. And somehow, that's enough. You exhale slowly, realizing how ridiculous your mind has been. The next morning, things are back to normal. Laughter, shared work, small glances that make your pulse skip. Yet something important has shifted. Love now includes fear, the fear of losing it. And from that fear, new emotions begin to bloom. Loyalty, commitment, even forgiveness. The species is evolving through heartbreak. Weeks later, you witness another argument between two others in the tribe. One accuses the other of stealing affection. Voices rise, hands gesture wildly. The elders step in, calming them with firm tones. It's messy, awkward, and utterly human. The tribe, it seems, is learning to navigate the emotional side effects of connection. Every conflict, every reconciliation, becomes a lesson written deep in the brain's wiring. Care has consequences. You and your partner wander away from camp that evening to escape the noise. The moon rises, silver and enormous. You sit on a rock together, quiet. They trace a shape on your hand. A circle, maybe, or a sun. Then they whisper a low sound, one they've used before, when they mean peace. You answer with one of your own. Clumsy but sincere. Love, even in its chaos, always finds a language. You think about how strange it is that something so beautiful can hurt so much. But maybe that's the point. The ache is proof that it matters. Without pain, there'd be no depth. Without risk, no devotion. Somewhere down the line, poets will try to explain this. They'll call it passion, heartbreak, longing. But for now, it's just you and them under a giant indifferent sky, learning what it means to feel too much. When you walk back to camp, you notice the others watching you both. Not with envy this time, but with recognition. They've seen the storm and the calm, the distance and return. Love, it seems, is teaching not just individuals, but the entire tribe how to endure. And, as you fall asleep, your partner's hand resting over yours, you realize that even jealousy has its purpose. It guards what the heart holds dear. The night hums softly around you, and somewhere in your dreams, you hear laughter, not mocking, but knowing. It's the voice of evolution again, whispering, "Good. You're learning." The dry season comes, stretching endlessly across the plains, and with it arrives a new kind of hunger, not for food, but for meaning. The tribe moves slower now, thinner and quieter, fires burn smaller, laughter less frequent. Yet, in this stillness, something new begins to form: memory. You start to notice how stories pass between people like embers, keeping the flame alive when nothing else does. Someone hums a tune by the fire, repeating a rhythm that sounds familiar. It's the same melody your partner used to calm you during storms. You smile, without realizing it. Your love has turned into story, and story will soon turn into myth. Your partner sits beside you, threading small shells through a strip of sinew. They hum too, matching the rhythm. The others join in, creating a strange harmony. Low, steady, almost hypnotic. The song has no words, but it means something everyone can feel. Maybe it's about the hunt, or the river, or maybe it's about connection itself. For the first time, emotion becomes art. The tribe has learned that feeling can be shared, even without speech. You lean against each other, your hearts thudding in sync with the rhythm. Somewhere, the idea of love songs is born. As days pass, the tribe moves near caves to shelter from the heat. The walls are smooth and cool, perfect for painting. The hunters sketch animals. The women draw spirals and shapes. One evening, your partner takes a piece of ochre and begins tracing two figures, stick bodies, hands almost touching. The group laughs gently, recognizing what it means. You blush but don't stop them. When they finish, they blow pigment around their hands, leaving two red prints side by side. The first art of love, carved into stone. You reach out and press your own hand next to theirs. The pattern is imperfect, but it feels eternal. Later that night, as the firelight flickers across those painted walls, someone begins telling a story about two humans who found each other under lightning and shared warmth against the cold. You realize it's your story, reshaped by imagination, already morphing into legend. People listen, their faces lit by fire and wonder. When the storyteller finishes, a child asks if the pair still live. The elder smiles and says, "As long as the fire burns." The crowd hums approval. The myth of love has been born. Not written, not spoken, but remembered. You and your partner share a quiet look. It's strange hearing your life turned into myth so soon, but it also feels right. Love has always been larger than the people inside it. It wants to outlive you, to echo forward through time. You know that someday, when you're gone, others will sit around fires just like this, whispering their own versions of your story. The names will change, but the rhythm will remain. In the following weeks, more songs appear. A hunter sings softly to his mate after a long day. A mother croons to a child. Even the wind through the grass starts to sound like part of the same melody. You realize that affection has woven itself into the fabric of daily life. It's no longer something rare, it's everywhere, a pulse beneath every action. You give food because you care. You share shelter because you remember how it feels to need warmth. Love has become the invisible law that keeps the tribe alive. One night, while the others sleep, you trace the outlines of the cave drawings with your fingers. The pigment smears lightly against your skin. You imagine future generations finding these marks and wondering who made them. Maybe they'll guess correctly. Two people who learn to feel before they learn to speak. Maybe they'll never know, but they'll understand the emotion behind it, because it lives in them too. Love doesn't need translation. It's humanity's shared memory. You turn to your partner, already asleep beside the dying fire. Their face is calm, illuminated by the faint red glow. You think of all the ways you've changed since that first night, by the old river, from survival to ceremony, from fear to story. You smile, realizing that this is what love does. It teaches, it adapts, it becomes culture. And as the stars watch silently from above, you understand that your small, ordinary life has done something extraordinary. It's given the world its first story worth retelling. The years roll on, and your tribe's children grow taller, stronger, curious. They no longer wander as far as their parents once did. The rivers and caves feel like home. The world, for the first time, is shrinking into something familiar. People stay longer, plant seeds in the soil, raise animals. It's the quiet beginning of settlement, and with it comes a new question. What happens to love when survival becomes easier? When hunger fades, the heart starts hungering for meaning. You sit beside your partner, one evening watching the children play. Their laughter rings across the clearing like bells. You realize these small, noisy creatures are walking proof that affection changes more than minds. It reshapes destiny. Every new generation carries pieces of the first bond, the first laugh, the first gesture of care. Love has become hereditary, not through blood alone, but through teaching. The tribe is no longer just a group of survivors, it's a family. But with family comes structure. The elders begin setting rules. Who can pair with whom, how long couples must stay together, how food is shared. You don't know it, but civilization is starting its slow crawl from the chaos of instinct. Some bonds are celebrated, others arranged. Love begins to clash with order. You and your partner see it when a young girl is promised to a hunter twice her age. She doesn't look at him the way you once looked at yours. Her eyes are distant, her shoulders tight. You feel anger stir, a strange protective heat, but you also understand. The tribe is changing, trying to survive in a new way. Love, for now, has to bow to the needs of the group. It hurts to watch, but even rebellion takes time to evolve. The seasons shift again. Crops grow, fires burn higher, people tell stories late into the night. Love finds a new role. It becomes the glue that holds these early communities together. Families share labor, laughter, and loss. When someone dies, the tribe mourns, not just because a body is gone, but because affection has left a void. Grief, the shadow of love, enters the human vocabulary. It's as old as the first tear shed over cooling skin, and as sacred as the heartbeat that inspired it. One night, a neighboring tribe visits traders with salt and flint and gossip. You sit near the fire listening to their stories. They speak of faraway valleys where people mark unions with painted faces and carved stones, where gifts of food seal promises. You realize that the rituals you once saw born in your own tribe have spread, adapted, evolved. Every corner of the world is discovering love in its own dialect. You smile. The heart speaks a universal language now. Your partner leans close, whispering that one day even strangers will know this feeling. You nod, unable to imagine how far that might go, across continents, across empires not yet dreamed of, but you believe it. Love is the one fire that refuses to die. Over the following moons, life slows. The two of you grow older, hair silvered with ash and time. You still walk together at dawn, still share glances that need no words. Around you, younger couples imitate the way you move, the way you sit, the way you laugh. You've become an example without meaning to. The first teachers of emotion, the first blueprint for every romance to come. One evening, you sit on a hill above the settlement, watching smoke curl into the sky. Your partner's hand finds yours, fingers rough but steady. You think of all that's changed since those wild days of wandering, the storms, the hunts, the fear. Now, there are songs, rituals, and quiet evenings filled with laughter. The world has learned tenderness, and you've watched it happen. Below, a group of children gathers around an elder who gestures toward the cave paintings glowing orange in the sunset. The elder says they tell the story of the first lovers who taught people how to feel. You chuckle softly. You know the truth. They weren't gods or heroes, just two humans who dared to care when it was easier not to. The air cools. You rest your head on your partner's shoulder, eyes heavy. The tribe's songs drift upward like smoke, fading into the stars. You realize the world no longer needs to learn love. It only needs to remember it. The world has changed again. Centuries have passed since your tribe's quiet fires first glowed in the savannah night. Now, human hands shape stone into cities, carve gods into pillars, and build empires from dust. The air hums with the sound of markets, prayers, and politics. Love, that fragile spark born in the dark, now finds itself tangled in the machinery of civilization. It's no longer just a bond between two hearts. It's a battlefield between desire and duty. You stand, not in grasslands, but in the shadow of ziggurats in ancient Mesopotamia. The streets are alive with voices calling out prices for grain and cloth, and with the laughter of children darting between stalls. Somewhere, a scribe dips his reed into ink to record the first marriage contracts. Love translated into law. It's strange, isn't it? The same force that once drew two people together beside a fire now requires witnesses, rules, and seals. Humans have learned to quantify emotion, to make it official. But not everyone agrees. Across the Euphrates, a young woman named Amara whispers with the man she loves behind the temple walls. Their families have chosen different partners for them. Alliances of trade, not of the heart. They meet only at dusk, when the city softens, and the river hides their voices. Every night is a risk, but still, they come. In their eyes burns the same ancient fire that once flickered between the first lovers. The names have changed, the language has changed, but the story, the defiance, remains the same. In Egypt, a scribe writes poetry on scraps of papyrus, calling his beloved the lotus of my heart. He hides the poems beneath his work tablets, afraid his overseer will find them. Across the Mediterranean, a Greek shepherd carves initials into an olive tree, promising eternal devotion to someone who may never return. Love has become rebellion, an act of courage in a world ruled by hierarchy. The rulers and priests frown upon it, of course. Love, when uncontrolled, threatens order. It crosses boundaries, class, religion, tribe. It laughs at titles and thrones, but it also humanizes. A pharaoh may be divine to his people, yet even he leaves behind letters to a lost queen, full of longing. Kings and slaves alike dream the same dreams when night falls. Of a face, a touch, a heartbeat remembered. You walk through the grand avenues of Athens centuries later, where philosophers now debate love as if it's a puzzle to be solved. Plato calls it divine madness, a force that drags mortals toward beauty and truth. Poets write of gods who fall for mortals, of hearts that break across Olympus. The stories grow richer, louder, more dramatic. Love, once whispered by firelight, is now shouted in amphitheaters. It has become art itself, sculpture, song, tragedy. But behind the marble and myth, people still ache the same way. A young Roman soldier, far from home, traces the outline of his lover's name on the hilt of his sword. A woman in the city waits by her window, listening for footsteps that never come. The empire teaches discipline and conquest, yet even its soldiers cannot conquer the heart. Across the world, in China's ancient valleys, poets of the Zhou dynasty sing of longing and virtue, of lovers separated by duty. In India, sculptors carve divine couples locked in eternal embrace, their forms frozen in devotion. Everywhere, humanity is translating feeling into symbol, trying to understand how something invisible can move mountains, build dynasties, and start wars. You watch all this unfold through time's haze, from forbidden whispers in temples to sonnets carved into stone. Love has become dangerous and holy all at once. It's no longer content to stay quiet. It wants to be remembered, painted, written, worshipped. It's as if the gods themselves have borrowed it, stamping their names onto what once belonged only to human hearts. But the truth remains what it always was. Every grand poem, every statue, every story begins with two people seeing each other for the first time and daring to care. The costumes change, the languages shift, but the pulse beneath it all beats the same. You know it because you felt it. That dizzy, defiant certainty that some things are worth the risk. And in that moment, standing between temples and towers, you realize love has survived everything so far. Hunger, storms, and now, civilization. It will survive the rest too. By the time the empires settle and the dust of conquest fades, humanity discovers a softer way of remembering love, not through laws or gods, but through the tender ritual of words and gifts. Across markets and palaces, people begin exchanging tokens, small symbols of devotion that carry meaning far beyond their size. A carved ring, a pressed flower, a folded letter, Each one whispers the same message that no law could fully express. I see you. I choose you. In a crowded bazaar of ancient Persia, a craftsman hammers delicate lines into a copper bracelet. On the inside, barely visible, he etches a single word in his script, heart. He sells it to a young man who wraps it carefully in cloth and slips it into his tunic. That night, beneath a sliver of moonlight, he gives it to the girl who works at the spice stall, her hands dusted with saffron and cinnamon. No grand speeches, no vows, just a gift passed quietly between trembling fingers. The first jewelry of love, humble and infinite. Letters follow soon after. When writing spreads, people find in ink what they cannot say aloud. A Babylonian tablet bears the lines of a soldier writing home, telling his wife, "The nights are long. I count the stars for you." Thousands of years later, his words still survive, baked in clay, the world's first love letter. Somewhere you smile, recognizing the feeling. It's the same one that once made you carve a mark into cave stone. Love always finds a way to leave proof of itself. As trade routes grow, so does the exchange of emotion. In Rome, young lovers leave garlands on doorsteps at dawn. In India, poets write verses comparing love to the monsoon, sudden, flooding, and impossible to stop. The Greeks invent the concept of eros and agape, trying to categorize affection like a philosopher might catalogue stars. But for most people, love lives in smaller gestures, a touch, a glance, a letter folded into a sleeve. You watch a scribe in Egypt seal a papyrus scroll with beeswax, his heart pounding. He's written lines stolen from temple hymns, but he's twisted them just enough to make them his own. The letter will travel miles by river to reach the woman who waits under date palms. She'll break the seal, read the words aloud in secret, and smile, proof that love has mastered yet another invention. Writing may have been born for trade and taxes, but it thrives best when telling the truth of the heart. By the medieval centuries, across deserts and mountains, the exchange of affection evolves into ritual. Lovers send embroidered scarves, pressed herbs, painted portraits. Even when oceans separate them, they find ways to communicate. Sailors carrying messages tied in cloth, knights leaving carved initials on stone bridges before riding to war. Each act says the same thing: I am far away, but you still exist in my world. The power of a simple gift begins to outshine even the grand gestures of kings. A merchant's wife in Venice keeps a dried rose hidden inside her prayer book. The petals brown and fragile, but still fragrant. She opens it every morning before Mass, not out of rebellion, but remembrance. Love no longer needs to shout. It can whisper through objects. You realize that humans have finally learned to bottle emotion, not in jars or scrolls, but in memory. Every trinket passed between hands carries the pulse of those who touched it. And those centuries will turn. Those items, rings, letters, tokens, will outlast their owners. One day, someone in a museum will look at that cracked bracelet or faded parchment and feel a quiet ache without knowing why. Your partner, long gone from the first world you shared, would have laughed at this. How humans keep turning feelings into souvenirs. But maybe that's the point. Love is a rebellion against time itself, a refusal to let the moment vanish completely. And as you watch the torchlight of civilization spread from one age to the next, you can almost hear a soft echo from that first night by the fire. Remember this, so it never ends. Time moves forward, and with it, the human heart learns to ask larger questions. Love, once a private instinct, and later a social ritual, now enters the temples and scrolls of faith. Across continents, people begin wondering whether love is simply an emotion or something sacred. You can feel it in the air of ancient cities. The tension between the body and the soul, between desire and devotion. The same force that once pulled two hunters together in the dark, now pulls humanity toward the divine. In early Judea, prophets speak of love as covenant, not merely between man and woman, but between human and God. Love thy neighbor, they command. As if the feeling that once kept tribes alive has evolved into moral law. The old instincts protect, nurture, stay, become commandments, teachings. People begin to see affection as a reflection of something greater, eternal. The fires of passion are tamed into the steady glow of faith. Across the East, in the valleys of China, Confucius writes of Ren, benevolent love, as the cornerstone of a peaceful society. Love becomes discipline, compassion, the careful shaping of emotion into harmony. A scholar bows to his teacher with the same reverence a husband offers his wife. Affection becomes a language of respect, the quiet backbone of order. You imagine those early tribes watching in awe at how far their simple tenderness has come, from firelight glances to philosophical treatises. Then, in India, the sages of the Vedas describe a divine union, where love is not just human but cosmic Atma meeting Atma, soul, recognizing soul. The lovers in their hymns are not just people, they are mirrors of the gods. Desire, once seen as animal instinct, becomes a sacred force, the spark of creation itself. Temples rise with carvings of intertwined figures, their embrace symbolizing the unity of all existence. For the first time, love is no longer only about two people, it is about the universe learning to connect with itself. In Greece, philosophers argue late into the night over goblets of wine. Plato, his brow furrowed, declares that love is a ladder to heaven. You start by desiring one body, then climb toward beauty itself, until finally you touch the divine. Others disagree, laughing, insisting love belongs to mortals, not gods. But their arguments, loud and brilliant, are proof that love has become a topic worthy of reason. Humanity's oldest instinct is now its highest subject of thought. Meanwhile, in a quiet monastery high in the hills of early Christendom, a monk bends over his parchment by candlelight. He writes of caritas, selfless love, charity, the love that gives without expecting return. His quill scratches the same rhythm as your heartbeat once did beside the fire. Every stroke carries the echo of those first gestures of care, reshaped into a theology of compassion. For him, love is the pulse of divinity, proof that God lives wherever kindness does. But even faith cannot cage the heart completely. In the same era, mystics begin writing poetry so passionate that it confuses priests. A nun in Spain dreams of divine love so intense it sounds almost human. A Sufi poet in Persia dances through the streets, singing that the beloved is both mortal and eternal, both man and God. The line between sacred and profane blurs until no one can tell where one ends and the other begins. Love, it seems, refuses to choose sides. You drift through these centuries watching it all unfold. The sermons, the hymns, the whispered prayers. Humanity has turned love into a mirror that reflects everything it worships. For some, it's purity. For others, passion. For most, it's both. An impossible balance between restraint and surrender. And yet, beneath the robes and incense and doctrine, the feeling remains the same as it was beside the first campfire. The need to be seen, to be held, to be understood. Whether whispered to a god or a lover, the plea is identical. Stay with me. Love has become faith, and faith in its truest form is just another name for love. The centuries turn and humanity steps into the age of knights, castles and songs sung by candlelight. The old temples give way to stone towers and armored men, and love, once divine and philosophical, becomes tangled with honor, poetry and danger. The world calls it chivalry, a strange code where affection is no longer just emotion, but duty wrapped in velvet and steel. You can almost hear the hoofbeats echo through the misty dawn as knights ride beneath banners stitched with lions and lilies, their hearts carrying secrets that no sword can protect. In the courts of Europe, love is no longer about marriage or survival. It's about yearning. You stand among courtiers and troubadours, where longing has become an art form. Men in silk write verses for women they can never touch. Women hide letters inside their sleeves, read by candlelight, lips trembling. The poets call it courtly love, and it's beautiful in its tragedy. The idea that to love without possession is the purest devotion of all. You smile, recognizing the irony. After 100,000 years of fighting for warmth, humans have learned to worship distance. In a castle hall, a minstrel plucks a lute and sings of Lancelot and Guinevere, a love doomed by loyalty. The listeners sigh, knowing the story by heart. It's dangerous, this kind of romance. It defies kings and commandments, yet it captures imaginations everywhere. Even priests can't silence it. Love has grown too powerful to be contained by walls or vows. It's become rebellion again, not against hunger this time, but against structure, against the idea that feeling must follow rules. Meanwhile, in dusty monasteries, monks secretly copy the same poems they condemn. Sinful, they mutter, but their hands don't stop writing. The ink betrays their hearts, humanity's craving for beauty wins again. You wander through the great courts of Eleanor of Aquitaine, where women for the first time in centuries claim power through poetry. They speak of love, as partnership, as conversation, as equality. One of them writes, "Love cannot live where fear dwells." It's a revolution disguised as a rhyme. The knights may wield swords, but the poets are carving something sharper, a new definition of affection where choice matters more than duty. Outside the castles, commoners learn their own versions of romance. In the villages, festivals bloom, dancers twirl with ribbons and laughter, young men carve wooden tokens, young women leave wreaths on doorsteps. Love becomes playful again, echoing the laughter beside the first fires of humanity. Even in poverty, affection thrives. It refuses to belong only to the powerful. But not all love ends in song. You hear the stories whispered of forbidden couples caught in the wrong time, of girls cloistered in convents to hide their hearts, of lovers separated by wars that last lifetimes. The world is still learning that to feel deeply is both blessing and curse. And yet, every tragedy makes the stories stronger. Somewhere in Italy, a poet named Dante dreams of a woman named Beatrice. He sees her once in childhood, then again years later, and writes of her as if she were light itself. His love transforms into vision, a guide through heaven and hell. You think of how far the heart has traveled, from muddy rivers and bone beads, to poems that map the cosmos. Love is not just surviving history, it's writing it. The troubadours spread their songs across Europe carrying words like torches. Even the illiterate learn the melodies, humming them in fields and taverns. People begin to believe that love, when true, makes you better, braver, kinder, closer to the divine. It's no longer just about union, it's about transformation. And though much of it is fantasy, knights rarely noble, courts rarely pure, the idea lingers. Humanity has found its favorite story: two souls, separated by fate, finding each other anyway. As you walk through the moonlit courtyards of this medieval world, you can feel the heartbeat of every song. The torches flicker, and the air smells of roses and parchment. A knight kneels, not before his king, but before the woman he loves. An act that would have baffled the first humans by the river. Yet in a strange way, it's the same gesture: to kneel, to trust, to give without knowing what comes next. Love has traded spears for sonnets, but the courage behind it remains unchanged. The world awakens from the medieval night into an age of sails and stars. Ships stretch their white wings across unknown seas, and explorers chase horizons that maps have never dared to draw. You stand at the edge of a bustling port, the air thick with salt and smoke, and realize that love, like these voyages, is about to discover new worlds. The age of discovery doesn't only belong to captains and kings, it belongs to hearts, learning distance for the first time. On the docks, women wave scarves as ships vanish into mist. Their lovers promise to return, voices breaking against the roar of gulls. Some never will. The letters they write, smudged with salt and longing, become the lifelines of emotion stretched across oceans. The parchment smells of wax and seawater, each line trembling with uncertainty. "If I never see your face again," one sailor writes, "remember that I loved you in every wave." Love has learned patience now, to endure time, absence, and storm. In Spain, poets write of lovers separated by empire, of hearts divided by oceans wider than imagination. In the New World, settlers carve initials into tree bark, proof that even at the edge of the unknown, people still reach for permanence. Love becomes humanity's way of declaring, we belong somewhere, even when everything else feels foreign. Meanwhile, the Renaissance dawns in Europe, and with it, love becomes both art and science. Painters like Botticelli capture devotion in brushstrokes of light and shadow. Sculptors carve marble that seems to breathe. Scholars rediscover the ancient philosophies of love and give them new life, mixing reason with rapture. Lovers exchange sonnets instead of oaths, using language as their battlefield and refuge. You walk through Florence, where a young artist sketches his muse by candlelight, her hair catching gold in the flame. His hand trembles not because of the art, but because of the feeling behind it. The canvas becomes a confession. Through him, you see humanity's new obsession, to immortalize love, to trap emotion in pigment, stone and ink, so that time cannot erase it. Across the ocean, cultures collide, sometimes violently, sometimes tenderly. In distant islands and vast continents, new unions form between travelers and natives, forbidden yet inevitable. Some are born of curiosity, others of compassion. Love, for the first time, becomes global, crossing skin tones, languages, and gods, but not without consequence. The same passion that unites can also wound. Empires exploit the very connections they romanticize. The heart, it seems, expands faster than the conscience. Still, in the quiet corners of the world, genuine affection thrives. A sailor teaches his beloved a few words of his tongue. She teaches him hers. They laugh, not understanding most of what they say, but meaning every sound. Love proves again that language is optional. It is gesture, rhythm, and gaze, the same tools humanity used in its beginning. The circle closes, yet grows wider. As printing presses spread through Europe, poems and letters multiply like wildfire. No longer the privilege of nobles, romance becomes the property of anyone who can read. Young men copy lines from Petrarch. Young women hide slim books of verse beneath their pillows. For the first time, love is democratized, no longer a ritual, no longer divine, but beautifully human. You wander through these centuries watching art bloom and empires rise. Love now paints frescoes, sails, ships, fills concert halls. It inspires symphonies and tragedies alike. It drives kings to war and poets to madness. Every age rediscovers it as if for the first time, convinced its version is the truest. Yet when you look closely at a sailor's trembling hand, a woman's tear-stained page, a painter's lingering brushstroke, it's still the same story. Two souls trying to hold on to something fleeting. The world grows louder, busier, more brilliant. Science explains stars, maps fill every corner of the earth, but love remains the one thing that defies measurement. It refuses to be charted or caged. The explorers can name every ocean, but not the tide inside the human heart. And as you stand again at that endless shore, wind in your hair, you realize the greatest discovery of all was never the land beyond the sea. It was what people carried inside them when they left. The centuries accelerate, machines roar to life, cities swell, and the world that once moved to the rhythm of footsteps now hums with steam, wires, and electricity. You stand on a crowded street in the 19th century, where smoke curls above chimneys and newspapers shout headlines in every corner. Love, that ancient flame, flickers in new shapes, telegrams, photographs, pocket watches engraved with initials. The human heart somehow keeps pace with invention. In a small English town, a young woman waits by her window as the postman walks up the muddy lane. He hands her a folded letter, the paper soft from travel. It's from a soldier stationed miles away, the ink faint, the words trembling. I count the days by your name. She presses the page to her chest. The distance hasn't killed the feeling, it's deepened it. Love in the industrial age learns resilience. It adapts to time zones and train schedules, to separation and silence. In Paris, couples stroll beneath gas lamps, their shadows meeting before their hands do. Poets write verses about fleeting kisses. Painters chase the glow of candlelight across canvas. The world is speeding up, but lovers still find ways to slow it down. Cafes fill with whispered confessions, letters left beneath saucers, sketches traded like promises. Every corner hums with that same old pulse, proof that even among soot and steel, the heart refuses to become mechanical. Meanwhile, scientists and philosophers turn their attention inward. They dissect love, as if it's a formula waiting to be solved. Psychologists give names to feelings. Attraction, attachment, projection. They map the mind the way explorers once mapped continents, searching for the coordinates of affection. But the more they explain, the more mysterious it becomes. You watch as Freud scribbles in his notes, arguing that love is just a reflection of the self, while poets down the street declare it proof of the soul. The debate doesn't end. It never will. Across the Atlantic, in the new cities of America, love becomes a promise of freedom. Couples marry for choice rather than arrangement, a luxury unthinkable centuries earlier. For the first time, people begin to say, I love you, not as duty or alliance, but as declaration. 3 small words replace rituals, dowries and treaties. The world calls it romance. You recognize it as evolution. Technology soon tightens its grip. The telegraph clicks, wires carry longing faster than any horse or wind. Stop. Miss you. Stop. Forever yours. Each message is a heartbeat in Morse code, proof that love will use any medium it can find. Then come photographs, grainy portraits of couples frozen in time, a hand on a shoulder, a faint smile, eyes that seem to whisper even after death. Humanity has found a new way to say, "Remember me." You drift through the turn of the century and into the chaos of modernity. 2 world wars shatter illusions, scattering lovers across continents. Trenches fill with letters that will never be delivered. Rings lost in mud, names carved into helmets. Yet even in horror, love persists. Nurses hold trembling hands. Soldiers keep faded photographs in their pockets. It's fragile, but unbreakable. A defiance against destruction. When everything else collapses, affection remains the last rebellion. After the wars, the world reinvents tenderness. Jazz croons from radios, film screens flicker with silver faces saying, "Here's looking at you, kid." Love becomes cinematic, dressed in glamour and longing. But beneath the glitter, the heart beats the same. Couples still meet in cafes, still write letters, still promise impossible forevers. Every generation thinks it's discovered love anew, not realizing they're simply retelling the same eternal story with a different accent. By the time the 20th century turns digital, love moves faster than ever. Telephones carry voices through wires, airplanes shrink distance, and suddenly people can touch across oceans. Scientists scan the brain and find that love lights it up like fire. They name chemicals: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, the holy trinity of attachment. But no one has found a formula to predict who will fall, or why. The mystery remains intact, unbroken. You realize that love has survived every invention, every war, every revolution. It's the one current that hums beneath the noise of progress. Even in a world of circuits and code, people still pause to write, to wait, to hope. Somewhere a message pings on a glowing screen, and someone smiles. The modern echo of a glance across firelight, thousands of years ago. The tools have changed, the heartbeat hasn't. And now, the present, bright screens where the fire once burned, glowing pixels replacing embers. The human story of love has found its newest mirror, the digital age. You sit in a quiet room, light from your phone spilling across your face, scrolling through lives, through smiles, through strangers who might become something more. The heartbeat of connection still hums, only now it travels through fiber optics and satellites. It's the same rhythm that began with a glance across a campfire, only faster, louder, endless. People swipe instead of speak, send emojis instead of gestures, yet the meaning hasn't vanished. Each message, each video call, each late night, "Are you still awake?" is a small echo of those first attempts at understanding. We still reach out in the dark, hoping someone will reach back. The difference is scale. Billions of hearts beating through digital networks, searching, matching, missing. Love has become both infinite and fragile, both easier and lonelier than ever before. Across the planet, connections spark between people who may never meet in person. A woman in Cairo falls for a man in Oslo. They talk beneath different skies but the same stars. A teenager in Seoul writes songs about a voice they've never heard in real life. The language of love has gone global, carried by signals and algorithms. It's thrilling, dizzying, and terrifying. Because even now, after thousands of years of practice, we're still learning how to love without breaking. You scroll past endless declarations, photographs, captioned with promises, couples kissing beneath neon lights, anonymous confessions posted for strangers to like. Love, once sacred and secret, now lives in public. It's dissected, discussed, broadcast. We count its worth in followers and messages, forgetting that the truest parts of it still live in silence. A pause before a reply, a heartbeat before saying goodnight. Science, as always, tries to explain it. Neuroscientists show scans of brains lighting up like galaxies. Psychologists publish studies on compatibility and attachment styles. Artificial intelligence begins to predict attraction, building digital cupids out of code. But even with all the data in the world, the algorithm still fails at the oldest truth. Love cannot be manufactured. It is wild, unpredictable, and stubbornly human. In cities lit by screens instead of torches, people fall in love on subways, in comments in airports. They say, "I love you," across languages, through translation apps and voice notes. Some never meet yet feel as though they've known each other forever. Some meet and realize that digital magic doesn't always survive daylight. Still, they try again, because love, for all its rewrites, still refuses to be deleted. And maybe that's the miracle, that after all this time, through floods, wars, empires and revolutions, the heart keeps trying. It adapts, shifts, survives. The tools change, the rituals change, but the longing doesn't. Whether carved into stone, written in ink, or typed with trembling thumbs at 2 a.m., the message remains identical. I am here. Do you see me? You pause for a moment and imagine the first humans again, huddled around the fire, reaching out in silence, inventing the wordless grammar of affection. They wouldn't understand screens or satellites, but they would recognize that look in your eyes, that ache in your chest when someone you love laughs from far away. The distance has grown, but the feeling hasn't. As you set your phone down, the room grows quiet. Outside, the wind hums through the city like an old song. You realize that love is the only thing in history that has never gone extinct. It's the thread that binds every age together, the whisper from our ancestors that still beats in our blood. You close your eyes, breathing slowly, and picture all those who came before. The hunter who reached out in the dark, the poet who wrote by candlelight, the sailor who kissed a letter before sending it off to sea. They are all here, inside you, their stories folded into yours. The centuries blur, the campfire flickers again, not behind you, but within you. You feel its warmth, ancient and alive. Somewhere in the soft hum of the modern world, you hear the same heartbeat that started this story, patient, hopeful, human. Love hasn't ended, it has only learned to speak new languages. So, tonight, when you close your eyes, remember this. Every love that ever was still burns quietly in the dark. Every word whispered across time leads here to you, to now, to the endless unfolding of the human heart. And as sleep finds you, let that warmth settle in your chest. The story is never over, it only changes form, because even after 1,000,000 years, hearts are still learning to feel. Good night. Sweet dreams.